minutes of time, I'd like to invite you into the bird room and show you the 1995 show team. I've now kept zebra finches for 20 years. Initially started with border canaries. The birds that you see are in good feather. I've had the opportunity of doing this video. It's been offered before but never really at the right time. So seeing as we're now 4 days after the club show at Crewe, it's an ideal opportunity to see the birds in perfect feather. This bird room is the main bird room. It's a brick built structure, roughly 17 by 12 feet in dimensions. I use this shed more than any other shed. All the birds are bred in here, and all the young birds generally are trained in this shed because I like this shed better. If we move down, I've got another bird room down at the bottom. That initially was made for canaries, but it's now been adapted to suit zebras. That shed's roughly 15 by 12 feet, but isn't quite as good as the top shed because it doesn't hold the heat very well in winter time. It also goes up quite high in summer. As I said, I've had zebras now 20 years, but I'm fourth generation bird keeper. As you can see, there's a pigeon loft down there which is my dad's. Pigeons figure straight quite strongly in the family history. We've also had hens and dogs and other assorted things. Let's go in and have a look at the birds. We're now in the bird room, as you can see, and as you can possibly tell by now, there's certainly nothing fancy in here. The cages are very simple, do the job for me, that's all I'm interested in. In this bird room there are approximately 70 cages, which believe me are needed, certainly when you're showing birds. At the moment, as I said, we're just right in the middle of the show season, and the birds are all individually caged. Because of the nasty habit of zebra finches feather plucking, it's imperative that the birds are individually caged, or else vital feathers are pulled away and the birds won't win at shows. As simple as that. These cages really are used as weaning cages during the summer, but most of the cages what are in here are actually used as breeding cages. I don't breed in any other bird room. All the birds are bred in here, roughly about 50 pairs, but not all of those 50 pairs are actually used to breed. But that's what I will pair up, about 50 pairs. Some of the cages are different dimensions to the others, purely because it was the way I dropped on them as I went along. The price of stuff nowadays, you've got to make do with things as they come by. But generally, as I say, the cages are made for the purpose of killing zebra finches. I tend to breed more in the deeper cages just to give a little bit more room for the chicks. I also have 4 what I consider to be very important flights. They only measure roughly 2 foot square, cubes almost. These are vital to me, mainly as holding areas. When the youngsters are weaned in the travel breeding cages, once they're sort of standing on their own 2 feet and they can look after themselves, they're all put into the flight. I find this very helpful for exercising the birds and keeping the birds in a general good state of health before they're actually selected and brought out individually for the show season. The flights also have another purpose. In winter time, if you came back towards November or December, the whole of the stock is housed in these 4 flights. Without the flights, I personally hope that you would ever get the birds in sufficient condition for breeding. None of the birds out of these flights carry any weight. Simply, the reason for this is that the birds are fed on the floor. They're fed low down, so that the birds have to exercise to get up to the perches. All birds, if they're going to eat, have to come down. By coming down, they're actually up and down flying is the best exercise birds can get. Flying across at a great distance really serves very little purpose. Flying up and down strengthens the birds and ensures that the birds never carry excess weight. Another important feature, what maybe many of you haven't seen before, I use conifers in the flights for perching. This is something that I tried a few years ago because I was having quite a bit of trouble with foot sores and foot problems. This seems to be completely eradicated when I use the conifers. They change quite frequently, roughly, I would say, every 4 weeks to get fresh conifers put in there. But there are several reasons why I use the conifers. First of all, when you've got a number of birds in an aviary situation, you do tend to get odd bullies. With the conifers, the birds that are being bullied can actually get out of the way of the bully boy. Therefore, you never get birds that are, are really battered, as you see sometimes with the straight dowling perching. Another important reason, as I said, all the stock birds are housed in here over the winter, is that the conifers themselves form pockets, and pockets of warm air. I do have heating in the bird room, but the heating is never put on anything above 5 to 10 degrees centigrade. Therefore, when the birds huddle up together on a winter's night, a long winter's night, the pockets of air, are a good help to keeping the birds healthy and warm. The feed side of things, conifers are very soft. But as with anything else, as they start to get warm, they do need changing because they do have a habit of becoming brittle. But I find that the conifer side of things is a big help to me. The diet for the birds is really simple. It couldn't be more simple. They're fed basically all their life on a mixed millet mixture, with a little bit more plain canary seed in it than probably your most common mixes. But generally, panicum millet, white millet, a little bit of Japanese, red millet, and canary seed. That's what the radon, showdon works on. Added to that, again, are the main essentials to most birds. Cuttlefish bone, they always have that available. You do get a rearing food. The one I prefer to use is CD, but most of the recognised brands do the job. They're only fed this at certain times of year, obviously when they're breeding, but I don't tend to overdo it in the short time, purely for the reason that they tend to get a little bit messed up, especially at the back end, which really is going against what we're trying to achieve. The only other real, additive to that is I do feed green food when it's available at certain times of year. As you can see in the aviary, the birds really enjoy chickweed, dandelion, all the main things that you read about. Once again, once the showing starts, I do try to keep the birds off that when they're individually caged, purely to keep them clean at the back end. But as you've seen, the birds really do enjoy it. Grit is always available to the birds, that's a natural essential. I don't really use additives or vitamin supplements. For me, they should get enough nourishment from the food that they're actually being given. As I say, everything's kept simple here, there's no secrets. This normal cock here is probably one of the choice ones that I've bred this time. He's done very well on the show bench, which we'll have a look at him later on in a show cage. But he's quite a large normal cock bird. I did breed several in the nest, which again you'll see most of them as we go through. But he was one that really did excite me this time. This other normal cock, again I would say type wise he's probably as good a one as I've ever bred. He does have one fault to him, a colour fault. He's a little bit thorny underneath, but he has one already this year. His type he's second to none. Again, we'll see him a little bit later on, as you will with most of the birds. This fellow here to the right, he's what we'd term as a buffy bird, or what some people would class as a buffy bird. I've never shown him because he's a little bit scruffy, certainly in feather. But all the same, a very useful stock bird. We hear these terms about stock birds. For me, a good stock bird is a good show bird. But obviously, for certain reasons, such as a little bit of thickness in feather, or a little bit of chest barring, or colour faults of some nature, we term these birds stock birds purely because they wouldn't win at shows for a particular fault. It doesn't mean that the bird itself is useless for producing quality show birds. Again, a lovely bird. This cock bird here has been somewhat of a disappointment for me. In a show cage he looks superb, but when I have shown him, he doesn't seem to like the shows. You're always born with some birds that that they love being showed. They look better in a show cage than they do out of a show cage. This fella, for some reason, when you take him out of this bird room, he's not the same article. All the same, I will be using him heavily in the breeding programme. This one has a particular strength in that he's very white underneath. I don't know just how it shows up today on the camera, but he is snow white underneath. Just what it does in the manual. We move from a series of normal cocks to a chestnut flank white cock bird. This fella is probably the best coloured chestnut flank white, or certainly in the best 2 or 3 chestnut flank whites for colour that I've ever produced. He's not the biggest of birds, but his colour is so rich. I've even been accused of colour feeding my birds, especially when they come up to that standard. I can assure you they're not colour fed. The only colour additives they get is what they get from the green feed. I think that's a must, especially in colours such as chestnut flank white, that need the strong distinction between the white and the colour markings. Colour food at an early age is invaluable. Next along the line, a fawn cock bird. This fella did very well sort of last year on the bench. Considerable depth. Not the longest of birds, you know, I mean the length isn't the greatest, but after all, length isn't what we're seeking. He's got all the size where it matters. He's produced 1 or 2 nice chicks this year, but I'm hoping for better next year. I suppose everybody lives in that hope. If we move down, there's a fawn hen. Again, a little bit of an enigma for me this time. When I produced her, I thought she was going to be the bird. Unfortunately, 1 or 2 little flaws in her colour have meant that I've never actually showed her. But I shall put her in the showcase possibly first to show you what a great show bird she would have been. As with all zebras, or all birds I suppose, it's not always the best birds that win the prizes. Very often we have birds that, for one reason or another, just don't get to shows. That's why it's possibly more important that you see these birds today. You see my show team for 95, but you also see the ones that didn't get out, what no one's seen. In many cases, those birds are better than the ones that win the prizes. Next along, another normal cock which hasn't graced the show bench. He tends to just drop his wings a little touch, especially again in a show cage. His wing carriage isn't the best, but I'd much rather have a bird that's a little bit lazy in the wing with something that crosses its wings almost like a pair of scissors. Again, a bird that I'm hoping for better results than he actually is. To the right, another chestnut flank white cock. Lovely coloured bird, not just enough substance to him for my liking. By substance, I mean the actual width and depth of the bird. You'll hear this phrase depth in exhibitions and everything. What we're actually talking about is the distance from the top of the head to the bottom of the belly, so that the bird looks thick set, almost bull-like. That's the kind of shape we're looking for. Not something that's like your little finger, thin, all legs. I personally don't like to see legs on exhibition zebra finches. Feet, okay, but when a bird are actually in a show, displaying, I like the belly almost to be touching the bottom of the perch. I don't mean lying across the perch, or on the perch, but when they display, that roundness to the perch. Done very well with normals. He's actually never made it into the show team. A very useful bird. He's actually the brother of the big cock you looked at first off. Nice bird, not really any faults with him. He's just always been picked when it's come for the final selection. But a useful bird for the breeding cage. If we move from him to this dark silver cock bird, he's had a little bit of a mixed show career in that some people love him, some people hate him. I'm sure it's because he is a dark silver that some people sort of have put off him. His markings, I think, are perfect. In so much as, even though the body colour has only been diluted slightly, so have his markings. So he is an even coloured silver. As I say, he's had best silvers at a couple of places. Other places the judges seem to ignore him and make him settle for third or fourth in a class. This time he's produced me some cracking birds of different colours. With him being a silver, I've been able to utilise him in a couple of different ways. But he's certainly a valuable bird to me for the future. If we move further right than that, this is a normal cock that has done very well on the show bench. A nice bird, but for my liking, just not quite enough in the head area. He's a little bit fine in the head. The heads are something of a real bugbear for me. I don't like to see birds. I select very, very harshly on head qualities. I've found in the time that I've kept zebras that if you can get the head somewhere near right, the rest seems to follow on. If the heads are wrong, they stay wrong. If you've got a bird and it's got a head that there's no rise off the beak, and it's got a beak that looks like a traffic cone, that trait or that flaw seems to stay in the birds for generations. You just cannot shift it. So then if you can get the heads right as a start, you're on the way to breeding some successful shorebirds. In any form of, livestock, or even people in general, the first thing we always look at is the head, be it a dog, a horse, even a beauty queen. It's very rare that people look at the legs first. They will look at the face or the head. That's where we get our first impression. So it's important that the first impression is a good one. I hope that you like to see plenty of quality zebra finches, because as you can see, there are plenty to look at. We've already looked at one or two, but there are plenty more, I can assure you. This chestnut plain white cock, if we can get him up, is another one of me deeper coloured chestnut. He's not actually seen the show bench because he's not been in that great a condition yet. But again, he's got that essential quality which chestnuts should have, and that's colour. He must have a bit of a colour distinction, really. Certainly to get well up in the specials with. Let's hope he's a little bit steadier than he is at the moment when he does get a shot. If we move down one, this bird again has been a little bit of a puzzle to me. I don't actually keep any leg backs at all. He's bred out of silvers, yet unfortunately he seems to have come out more looking like a lake back. Not being an expert on lake backs, I've always assumed that a bird that has a very distinctive black and white tail and chest bar, yet has the dilution of body colour, has been a lake back. It'd be interesting to see, or to get someone to look at him for me, someone that keeps lake backs, to make clear actually what he is. He's a stormer of a bird. Again, another one that's in some ways broke my heart because I know I'll never be able to show it, because I haven't got a hen that's anything like it. Certainly the silver. I'm just interested to know what he is so I can plan what to do with him in the breeding cage. I'd love to breed some normals that had his shape and size and also that whiteness underneath. So I would like to put it to a normal hen if that's possible. Just below him is what I would class as being near enough ideal as a silver cock. He's a bonny bird, his colour's nice and even. I think you'd be a little bit asking too much if you wanted him to be an awful lot lighter than he is in colour. Again, I mean, another one of the silver team that I've bred this year that unfortunately I haven't got partners for. If I could just get him in a show cage with a hen, I think we'd have something to play with. I'm sure he's hiding out of your view. He doesn't want to play. If we move off him and come up to this bird, I know this bird always looks well. One of those few individuals that never seems to have an off day in his life. He has been shown. Fortunately I've had a couple that have beaten him. But all the same, a quality individual. Just if anything, lacking a little bit of size. But I'm quite happy with him. He's big enough to breed from. Far too often, you know, the top people are accused of having big birds, or they're only breeding big birds. I'm certainly not afraid of using small birds, as long as the type's right. Big birds are fine if the type's there. But I certainly don't use anything that's big but not got any style. In any case, the birds that are winning on the show bench generally have a little bit of finesse about them. They work the perches, they display to each other. They're not big and lazy like maybe you've been led to believe. All the big lazy birds are kept in the stock cages. This is another silver cock. I seem to be doing well for silver cocks, but not hens. In my opinion, that's as good a silver cock bird as I've ever seen. He has won a little bit, but in all truth, the hen's nothing like him. Both in quality and I suppose in colour. I don't see that bird being too far away from a newly minted 10p piece, which the experts, or so-called experts, would have you believe is the ideal colour for a pair of silvers. Almost all the visitors that have been here this year picked that bird out, so he must have something. Lower down is the chestnut point white cock that's been doing very well for me. He's won at several places already. I'm sure you'll see him a little bit later in the showcase. Again, a bird that holds tremendous feather quality. Has enough colour to win, and he's a little bit bigger than the brother you saw earlier. Coming down one from there is another one that's puzzled me this time. He's never been in the bench, or on the bench. He's never been there because his conditions never held. As you can see, his flankings are just a little bit patchy. Maybe a bird for perhaps the national later on in the year. Superb head, lovely head. Maybe not enough body to match the head. But when he dropped out of the nest box at 3 or 4 weeks old, or 3 weeks old, I would say he was the most advanced of the youngsters I'd bred. He looked like he was destined to be a cracker. Unfortunately, up to now it's not materialised. But we'll see. Next door to him is a fawn cockbird. Not the best fawn cockbird I've ever had, but he's a showman. He's a yellow feathered bird, carries good colour, nice mink beak. Just for me, not enough to him. He could do with being 1/8 of an inch all round bigger. But he's certainly not a bird that carries a lot of faults. He's a pleasing bird. I think judges find it difficult to find faults with him. I'd like to breed off him a couple of birds, but I like him only that little bit bigger. Then we would have some winning. A bird that always, again, looks well. This fawn hen has had a few songs wagging this time. I think she's as good as any fawn hen I've ever bred. She's very clean looking, clean chested, no problem with chest bar in there whatsoever. A nice compacted bird, lovely rise to the head. Again, I don't see really any problem with that bird. Many of my rivals, if you like, have admired her and said what a stormer she is, almost unbeatable. I have actually beaten her once this time with one of my own, but whether it was justified is debatable. She's going to be obviously figure very highly in the breeding programme. I'm just hoping I've got a fawn cockbird that'll match up with her and produce some chicks. What a sweet bird to the eye. If we move lower than her, we have almost a carbon copy, I would say, of the fawn hen above. Only this one's a chestnut flank white. Again, a bird that has really pleased me this year. Apart from perhaps having a little bit darker tear, I would say that bird is nigh on perfect. So sweet with the curves, no corners to her, and as you'll see again later on, a lovely show attitude. One of the better birds I've produced this time. We move down from her, a bird that possibly should never have been in a show cage. She's a little bit dark on her head. I think I've got a little bit of a soft touch for her because there's something about her that I really like, especially blended in with the other chestnut flank whites that I've produced this year. We'll see maybe this time next year whether my valuing her so highly has been justified. A nice bird all the same. Moving along, it's a normal hen that's been out. Again, very clean looking. Maybe a touch off white underneath, but you never seem to get hens that are snow white underneath. It's part of the inbuilt characteristic of a normal hen. Her father was the dark silver cock we saw earlier on, and I said that he'd produced some quality birds for me. She has been shown, as I said, done quite well. Maybe next week that'll be the week she actually wins something. We'll see. Next on the list is a chestnut flank white hen that has shown great promise. A lovely bird. I think she's just been unfortunate that I've bred some real cracking chestnut hens and they tend to make her look average. But I can assure you, she isn't an average bird. Moving down, this is another one of my hand-picked ones, if you like. If I was to be without any, I certainly wouldn't have this down as one of them. Believe it or not, she is a silver hen. Very dark, but again, very even, which is, to me, the main point that we're looking for. Evenness of colour. For type, size, feather quality, I think she's spot on. I don't think there's any area where she could be bettered. I have shown her once. I shan't show her again because, again, the judge didn't particularly like it. And I don't like to see birds like that being wasted on the show bench. She's too good to be languishing down the prizes. Can't wait to see what she's going to produce for me. Moving up again, this normal hen, very good in the head area and the neck. The head almost looks part of the body. There's no real join or dip in the neck or any weakness around the head area. She's done very well. She's won a few times, classes, and been well up in the specials. But again, another one that I'm looking for improvements in the breeding box. We move down, another chestnut flank white hen. As you will see, I'm again very well blessed with chestnut flank white hens. It's a shame I haven't got the cocks to show with them. I have that many of them. This bird's done well, very neat. Not the biggest of birds, but that tail mark's so striking. I feel if some of the bigger chestnut flank white hens had had that tail mark on them, they'd have been unstoppable. Very compact bird. Yellow feathered. Believe it or not, people would say or quote that I don't breed from yellow feathered birds, but that is a yellow feathered bird, and I'm very pleased to have her for the breeding plan next year. Lower down than that, she's a bit of an exception in this room because she's an adult. The reason she's in here, I'm pampering her slightly. That's been one of the best birds that I've ever owned, both as a show bird and a breeding bird. She was bred in 1993, but unfortunately I don't think she's going to see 96. I did show her last week at Crewe, and I think she was 4th in the adult class, but the prizes that bird's won, I would go on for 5 minutes if I remembered all the prizes that she's won. I only hope next year I can breed another one like it. She's been a real corker. This normal hen has probably done the best out of the breeder hens so far for consistent results. She's always peppering around the first prize, that is. She's won a couple of times and been beaten by a real good one the other time, which you'll see later. A sweet bird in feather quality, a very tight feathered bird. Not the hardest to get into show condition. She holds well for you over a number of weeks. But having said that, not really the type of bird that I would be putting a lot of emphasis on in the breeding cage. I'd be more inclined to breeding from something. If I do pair her up, she'll go to something with a little bit more depth. She tends to be a little bit leggy, especially in a stock pen like that. But a nice bird all the same. Lower down than her is yet another chestnut pant white hen. Got a little bit of flecking on top of her head, but nothing too severe. Again, another outstanding feature with this bird is the setting of the beak, which really throws that head up. It makes that head look even rounder. I tend to think of a beak set like that as the jewel in the crown. If you've got a bird with a nice face like that, it whets the appetite for the rest of the bird. A lovely hen. Down below we have again an adult. I tend to pamper some of the adults in this top shed, especially those that are knocking on in days. When I say knocking on, those particular birds are only 3 years old. But in zebra finch terms, that's old. That's getting old. This one, I've got him up here. I'll show you a little trick with him after in a showcase. But again, like the hen that I was speaking about a little earlier, I'll make sure I've got something of suitable quality to replace him. His depth, his size and his colour are perfect. You'll not tell from that angle, but his wing carriage and his wing coloration is first class. Done a lot of winning in his time. Moving on to another normal hen. Possibly doesn't deserve to be in a cage. Perhaps after this video she'll be put in a flight with the other stock bird. She tends to have this flow in her that we're currently hearing so much about. I think it's a storm in a teacup, but there you go. She's got a little slight discoloration just around the cheek patches, or behind the tail mark. She's actually a sister to the first bird we looked at, the big normal top. So she's going to be very valuable in my programme. Again, some of the so-called experts, I say so-called, not in a derogatory way, but I have my own sort of views on what birds produce winners. And I haven't done too bad with the views that I've used, or the approach I've used. I really fancy that hen to produce some cracking birds, but we'll see. Under her is again another one of my particular choice birds. She's never been on the show bench, mainly because of the fact I haven't got a cock big enough to match up with her. But that bird, believe it or not, was bred in the middle of May, so she's only a baby. She's not quite finished molting her flight feathers. And she has an odd fleck just in the back of her neck, which you can't see off that, but for a bird that's merely 4 months old, if that, I dread to think what she's going to look like this time next year. I just hope she'll throw me a cock out of the same quality. Again, one I would consider to be of the best dozen in here at the moment. Lower down than her is a fawn cock. Again, something unusual happened with this bird. It would have made a great show bird, but for some reason the barring on its tail is almost like white and fawn rather than fawn and white. It's not pied. I was expecting when he first started covering up that I was going to get white feathers in the top of his tail. It's a shame, but it's rendered him useless for showing. But I'm relieved that they're not white feathers. Something on the melanin side has just gone wrong when those tail barrings have been forming. Never mind, another one useful for the for the purring up stage. Sure. This particular normal cock holds a lot of interest for me for next year. I've never showed him because, number one, he's got a toenail missing, but he's split the chestnut flank white, so his coloration on his back does tend to be a bit light. So he's never been showed, but what I'm hoping for out of him is some strongly coloured chestnut flank white. As you've seen with some of the hens, I've certainly got the hens to put in two. So let's hope that this time next year I've got chestnut flank whites out of him with that sort of type and balance. Below that, this normal cock has been nothing but a problem to me really. He did well at crew, but he's got an annoying trait of pulling the tail bars out the hens. Why certain birds do this, I don't know. Not this bird, but some years ago when the main show, the ZFS show, was held at Harrogate, a bird such as this cost me the Best in Show award that day. The judge who judged those birds at the time, Tommy Anderson from the Lake District, actually wrote in his report that had this hen bird not destroyed the cock's tail, they would have won the section. It was a little bit annoying to find out that the Best in Show award went to the winners of that section. But like anything else, at times you get good luck and at times you get bad luck. But I'll be watching this one very closely because he could destroy any number of hens, for show purposes that is. A quality bird all the same. You never seem to get these birds that let you down for one reason or another, that are only average. It's always something that would win, and it has a fatal flaw, a tragic flaw. But another bird that I'd rather have him than not have him. Just underneath him is another cock bird that's only a baby, bred in May, still got a lot of development to come. He's bred off a particular line of birds that I really fancy. I don't think he's ever going to make the best of the show birds that I've got, but he's not going to be too far behind. A very nice bird. This is another one of the silver cocks. We seem to get an abundance of certain colours and sexes. One of the problems of showing zebra finches. You never seem to have enough partners to go to the quality sets that you've got. Fine for breeding, but a little bit disheartening when you're trying to get match show birds. This fella seems to want to go on the floor. But again, a very nice silver cock, and I'm hopeful that I'll produce some hens next year that will match all these silver cocks I've produced. Again, the feature with him is that nice cheek patch, very light, and underneath is Purcell white. Underneath him is one of what I feel is one of my better normal cocks. Without being the biggest of birds, he's full of type, full of jauntiness, a real showman. He actually finished second at crew to the pair that took Best in Show. I wouldn't really have argued with that decision, but hasn't really fulfilled the promise that the faith anyway that I've got in him. I think he's a cracking little bird. I say he finished second, and in the same class as the winners. On that particular day, 4 days ago, I was lucky enough to take the first 6 prizes in that class. So he actually beat my other 4 pairs of normals. A very nice bird. Underneath him is something very similar. This cock is actually bred from the old hen that I said I was pampering. He's won up in Scotland and down at Exeter he won. But had to settle for, I think, 3rd at crew. If I was pulling holes in him, compared to some of the other birds that you've seen and will see, just not quite enough substance, enough depth to him. Very pleasing feather-wise, colour-wise, and a nice shorebird, but not really enough of him. Rest. This fawn cock has been very pleasing to me, purely for the fact that the last couple of years I've been short of quality fawn cock birds. I had a friend up several weeks ago and I was a little bit despondent again about the fawn cock. Being well blessed for hens, it seems such a waste of show preparation when you know damn well that you haven't got partners to go with them. This fella, when my friend came up, he said, well, I don't know what you're complaining about. I wished I had a fawn cock like that one. He did do well at crew. I think he was actually second best breeder. But again, I'd like several birds of that quality this time next year. We'll see him in a showcase in a while. Above him is a chestnut flank white hen. She is another one of those birds that I found very difficult to match up with a cock. If anything, she's a little bit long, but she is a hell of a big bird. I don't think really on film or on picture you could judge how big she actually is. She's a whopper. And a nice tempered feathered bird. Another one of the dozen or so that I seem to have produced this time that it would break my heart to be without. She actually won down at Exeter. Above her is its sister, who's up her. That's not flank white hen you're looking at. She's actually the sister of the one below. Maybe not as big as her sister, but she's not as long. I have shown her, and she does carry a lot of feather. So I'm quite optimistic that particular bird will throw bigger chicks than themselves, if that's possible. Not quite sure what I'm going for her too, but it would have to be something with a yellower feather. A great hen to have all the same. If we move along, this normal hen is out of what I would consider to be one of the better sets of birds I've got, especially for the show bench. She's so neat in all her markings and a definition of shape. No corners or edges, no bumps or lumps, no dips and hollows, just pure type. She's done well for me again. Underneath that particular bird is the hen that I actually was so grateful for, in so much as I matched it up with the top bird for crew. The big fella you saw right at the very beginning. I was desperate to find a hen to show with him. Right at the deck, this bird came into condition. Tried them together once, and I was happy with the result. I showed them at crew, and they beat everything else, so not a bad last choice. Again, we'll see her in the showcase in all her glory. Just below her is another fawn cock which has held great promise, but just never really delivered it for the show bench. I say that, he's never had a chance yet, because he hasn't been on the bench. Not quite reached that hardness of feather that's required. Still a little bit soft looking in the mouth. Maybe a bird for next year. This fawn hen, again, has never had a show and probably never will have a show. She's what I would term a stock bird. And so much as she's a little bit ungainly in looks, a little bit ugly, if that's possible. rather coarse in feather, which doesn't help the tidiness of an appearance. But a superb bird for the breeding cage. Again, that tail mark, very nice. Sets the bird off. I'd personally be looking for some nice fawns coming out of that, especially on the cock side. But you never know. Next door, something pretty similar, I would say. A bit fuller in the head. Had one or two admirers when they've been to visit here. One or two people tried to get it off me. But unfortunately I've only got that one, so I couldn't afford to let her go. If I'd had a sister or something, I would have perhaps let her go. But another one that will never win anything on the show bench, but I'm hoping to produce quality stuff all the time. Next to her, we've a fawn hen that has this annoying tendency that it's just a little bit square on the chest, a little bit overweight. When she's fishing in a show cage, she tends to hide it a little bit, but I'm just trying to get that weight off her before I can show her to her full potential. I see very little point in showing any pair of birds simply to make up the numbers. If a pair of birds goes out of here, I'm certainly hoping that they're challenging for the bigger award. I'd certainly be disappointed if a bird like that doesn't at some time win a large award, and I'm positive that she'll breed quality offspring. Next one down from her is a huge normal hen. As I said a couple of minutes ago, I had a little bit of trouble matching up the big normal cock this time. She was the obvious candidate, but as luck would have it, just a week before it came to the show, something pecked her in the eye, another cock or another bird when they were being sprayed, pecked her in the eye, and it turned her eye a little bit sore. So at the time I was fuming, but it came right in the end. Possibly the biggest normal hen that you'll see here today. Next door to her is a fawn hen that, again, lost its tail bars at an inappropriate time. I say it lost its tail bars. The feathers on zebra finches are so important that even one tail bar astray can cost the bird from winning a class to being out of the prize cards. The side she's on at the moment, the bar is there. But the other side, it's absent. That little bit of absenteeism on that side renders her useless to show. What a stormer of a bird once more. This particular normal cock, again, is figured quite well for me. It's a lovely colour, very even on the back, you know, down the wing. He's one of those birds that I can't put my finger on it really. He has had a lot of promise, but then again, sometimes he doesn't look the best, or he doesn't display himself to the best of his ability. Something like that I always try and persevere, because I know it's in there, I know that the quality is there. It's just a matter of getting him right on the day. I never really allow myself to be beat by a bird that isn't happy with the show bench. All my birds should be comfortable when they're stuck into a big hall and trotted about by dozens of people. So it'll come. Maybe it's because it's such a young bird. If we move this to the side, that particular normal hen, again, is one of my favourites. I don't know whether it's anyone else's favourite. She's not the biggest, but she has this lovely feather quality and shape. I say she's not the biggest, she's filling her face there, so maybe she will get a bit bigger. She's one of those birds with a lovely, like an almost slaty blue colour to her background. Something we don't see in the present day normals. I like that colour. Very little impurities come about with a bird that carries that slaty grey or a light grey coloration on the back. But her feather quality is excellent. I don't think that sort of feather texture can be bettered on an exhibition everything. The birds that we're looking at now, if I was to fail her, I would say she hasn't quite got enough of the depth we spoke about earlier. She's still a quality bird, and you can imagine in a showcase when she actually displays, she does fill out in depth. Her colour is excellent, and I'm looking forward to breeding some good cockbirds out of that for some reason. That's my main aim with her. Say, a bird that certainly looks a lot better in a showcase than she does on her own there. Next door to her is one of the probably better pedigreed birds, if there is such a thing, in here. Both her parents have won endless number of awards. She has been showed and done quite well. She's been in the specials and one thing and another this time. But maybe a bird that will breed better birds than she actually is. Anything like either of her parents, I'll be delighted with. Since I started working, got rid of the canaries, I've adapted this for zebras. I only use this shed 3 months of the year, purely for showing, just cage space for additional individually caged birds. It's a good shed, but not quite as roomy as the other one. We'll go inside and take a look. This bird room is much the same layout as the main bird room. As you can see, it's a little bit more compacted. But contained in here are again 2 small flights with an emphasis on the birds flying up and down. And there are roughly 70 to 80 kgs in this bird room, all used individually. What you're going to see down here are the bulk of the birds that have been winning for me in the last 2 or 3 seasons. Plus, of course, I would say 50% of the actual youngsters at this time. But these birds don't sort of get handled as much as the ones up there, and I only perhaps come down in here to feed the birds and do the daily maintenance. No more than that. So the birds actually train themselves in this shed, or have already been through the training process. As I said earlier on, up at the top, some of the flights are generally used for holding birds. This particular flight with the hens in, I'm sure you'll be picking out all individuals and saying, oh, that's a good bird and that's a good bird. Generally, most of the birds in these flights are good birds. It's just for one reason or another, if you look very closely at them, you'll see that there are odd little colour faults or feather faults which would really never be eradicated. So the birds are put there, I know where they are, and they certainly figure very strongly in the breeding programme. But there's no reason that the bad birds are in the flights compared with the birds in the cages. Again, just to reiterate what I said about the conifers, you can see that these birds really enjoy it. They'd much rather be on that sort of perching system than a flat dowel perch competing for position. Each bird seems to know its own place. This hen was one of the better birds, certainly one of the better normals that I bred last year. Unfortunately, she went right out of condition about a week before the ZFS Club show. So I only showed her once, and even then she wasn't really up for this job. She was only 75% there, which really in strong competition isn't good enough. I think that particular day she was second in the class and about third best champion breeder. This year I seem to have held it in the form that she was in last year prior to the shows, and she's done tremendous for me. She's already had best in show at Exeter at the South Western Zebra Finch Club show, and she was best champion adult at Crewe at the biggest show. So she's had a really good time of it in her second year. I've never really seen that bird look better than she does at the moment. I'm just hoping that she'll last for the rest of the show season, if that's not too greedy. Just below her is a sister. Again, this bird, she's won numerous awards. Not as good as her sister, but she's been out more time. She has had a little spells, you know, where she's only finished second and third, but she has done very well for me. And I don't suppose really there's any reason why she shouldn't produce better chicks than the one above her. But I know which one I'd let go if I had to. Just below the two normals is a chestnut flank white hen that again is figured very well and taken best of colour that too many places to mention really. What a nice bird. Could do with a spot more on head, but she's a big hen for a chestnut. This chestnut hen again caused a bit of a stir at the South Western Club show this year. She's a 12-month-old bird, but I've never really shown her before. Some of the more knowledgeable chaps who keep zebra finches made inquiries whether I'd let this bird go. Unfortunately, the answer to that was no. But even though she's never really won big prizes, and possibly never will do, she was one of the few birds that people seem to value very highly. As we've already said, sometimes it's a shame, but the better birds don't often win the prizes. Nice tight beak again. That's her main asset is the setting of the beak in relation to the head, and that nice tail mark sets it off. Next door to her is a fawn hen that again I've been lucky to have, but I've never really had a cock bird good enough to show with it. Certainly not this last year. If she lasts a little while, maybe next year I'll get something out of her, or I'll get something, you know, to show with her. What a tremendous bird. When I was at Crewe on Saturday, I took this bird as a reserve, just in case something happened to one of the main team. I could have always slipped it in. If a tail bar had gone astray, or you know, a bird had looked uneasy, I could have popped that one in. But I showed it to one of the ring series, and he was amazed that I had a bird of such quality sat in the back of the car all day. But there you go. Just below her, to the left, is a hen that actually was in the team before her. Maybe that you find that hard to believe looking at it, but in a show cage, she's top class. Another one of the birds where people have really praised highly. One of the team that did very well for me last year. He was actually best fawns at the ZFS Club show this year round. Next door to her is the other hen that I showed in the adult class. Similar to the first fawn hen we've been talking about, Hasn't really had cocks that justify or merit going with her in the show bench. But an all-rounder. No real faults. Carries enough feather, but not coarse with it. Just a super bird to look at. Just below her is a fawn hen, which is one of the few doublers that I've had. She's actually won best in show at specialist club shows 2 years running. She did that at the Scottish Everything Society. Not in '95, but in '94 and '93. I was offered quite a lot of money for that bird as a youngster, but the year after, when she won the same show again, I was glad I didn't sell her. And she has produced some smashing chicks for me. So all in all, a great bird. And just next door to her is a chestnut flank white hen that is another one of those puzzles to me. I've never actually shown this bird. She's 12 months old, and for some reason or other, when I put her in a show cage on selection night, other birds seem to look better than her. In a cage, a normal cage, she looks a certainty to be picked. Maybe next time. This hen's getting a little bit long in the tooth now. She's starting to knot a little bit in feather. But she's actually responsible for most of the normals that you're seeing today. She's 3 years old. Bred a lot of chicks for me. But in a day, or certainly as a 12-month-old bird, she was unstoppable. She was best in show at the Scottish and Northern Counties, and figured at many other shows. I didn't show her last year, and I don't suppose I'll show her this year. But I'd welcome another breeding season out of her. She's been a real storming bird. A delight to have. And next door to her is a chestnut white cock. This bird is a youngster, but he's got the same problem. He seems a little bit knotted in feather. I'm really hoping that I can get a show out of him, because he's such a cracking bird in everything that we look for, really. You know, his head's perfect, he's a lovely type, nice body, he's got the colour that a chestnut flank white requires. He couldn't be better for colour. Yet, looking at it logically, it may be next year before he gets a run. But you never know, he might make a late run for the National, we'll see. To the left is a fawn hen that was handpicked really for the judge who judged her at Crewe. I've never shown her before. I never really thought that she merited going in the team before. But knowing what I knew about the way the judge would go and the way that the type of bird that he likes, I thought she was made for him. As it turned out, she was, because I think she had best fawns at Crewe. She didn't actually. She was best breeder fawn. But she won a big class, a big breeder class. Not really my style of bird in some respects, but not far away from it. Very good colour, good feathered hen. Next to her is an adult normal, one that was a team maker-upper, if you like. Not the best normal hen I had last year, but no slouch. I'm sure there are plenty of people would love to have a go with a hen like that. Bred some nice stuff for me, but not one of the best. Just lower down is another tail bar absentee. She dropped both tail bars literally days before the big show. It's a shame, because she's a striking hen. She's a last year's bird, and hopefully I'll get a good result out of her before she passes on. Those tail marks are so striking, really effective. And next to her is another stock normal hen. This bird is actually on its way down to Devon in the next week. A friend of mine who's let me have a reasonable bird or two back. He's asked me for a normal hen, and I don't think he'll be disappointed with this one. She's a beauty. I've got about 10 chicks out of this bird, so I can afford to let her go now. We've done very well on the show bench. This little cockbird was best in show at the National last year. He was one of the birds that was one of the last I put a ring on, and he didn't have come on. It was a pleasant surprise. Sight-wise, he's spot on. Colour-wise, he's excellent. Just a little bit more size, if that was his flaw. But certainly on the day at the National, he was head and shoulders above anything else I showed. A real promising bird. He's actually split fawn, so I can perhaps breed a few fawns out of him in this next year. I wouldn't be surprised either if he didn't grow a little bit. Certainly this next couple of months. He's motored through nicely. And maybe, who knows, he might do the double at the National this time. You never know. Just to the right, he's possibly the most successful bird I've got. He's won everywhere. As a young bird last time, he was unbeatable. He was best breeder at Beverley, the 1994 Club Show, and seems to win with any hen I put with him. The first bird we looked at today is his son. So, not only is he a show bird, he's usually in the breeding cage as well. An ideal bird. A bird that never gives me any trouble. Whenever I need to show him, he's there, he's ready for me. Needs very little work to get him up to show condition. Long may he keep in show. Just under him is a bird that's a 93 cockbird. Again, this bird has won too many things to mention. Just off the top of my head, I know last year he was best in show at the South Western Club Show and the East Angling Club Show. He's also had a best at Scottish and Northern Counties and countless number of best normals and second best breeders and second best adults. But he's coming to the end of his reign. This normal cockbird, again, he's one of the birds I would hate to be without. A real successful record. He's another one of my, what I call my double sort of select team. He won both the 93 and 94 Zebra Finch Society Club shows. Firstly at Maidstone and last year at Beverley. I certainly don't know of anybody that's had a particular bird that's won the biggest show twice, let alone 2 years running. So he must possess something when he goes in that cage. He must get a little bit of magic about it, because he seems to do it year after year. It's quite ironic really, because this fella, I missed him in the nest. I missed ringing him. So as you'll see, he's got a blue split ring on. I don't use split rings generally, and as he started to colour up and develop, I didn't half curse myself, because I knew I wouldn't be able to show him as a breeder. When it came to Maidstone, again it was quite funny, because he took the best adult award and best in show, and his brother that had a ring on won the best breeder, or the best breeder normal anyway. So they weren't a bad little nest. To be truthful, he hasn't really produced me anything that comes up to himself, you know, that matches himself. So I'd love to have another one. Smashing bird. Next door to him, I nicknamed this one the Bruiser, because he doesn't half possess us both. He was best champion breeder at the Midland show last year, fantastic power and presence. A bird with such presence is hard to ignore. Looking at perhaps a little weakness to him, his beak is slightly more elongated than some of the birds you've looked at. But I'd love to go and buy one or swap one that's like that. He's a cracker. Just below him is one maybe for the normal purists. His colour couldn't be better. I mean, it's perfect for colour for the normal cockbird. But another one of those that doesn't really do a lot for me. He's a last year's cock, so he must have pleased me enough to keep hold of him. And he's won enough prizes and specials to justify a place. But not really a bird that I value very highly. As he is at the moment, you can see why he has won the specials, because he just doesn't stop singing. This cockbird, not really a showman, more of a stock bird. Tends to have this appearance of being browy over the eyes. I think when you see a bird that's browy, that means it almost though it's got Dennis Healy eyebrow. I think that's a good indication that there's a buff feather texture in there somewhere. The bird's coarser in feather than the majority of birds you see. Tends to give them that mean and no messing look about them, rather than sweet and pleasing to the eye. Maybe one or two nice birds. I'm just hopeful that it'll produce something a little bit more on the show side, with that same feather quality that he possesses. And just below him is another showman. I can't shut this bird up, he rattles in my ear constantly. Never won anything major, but he's not had an awful lot of outings. Another one of those birds that just doesn't seem to make it in the final cut when the show selection comes around. But underneath, lovely and white, a feature that we're all striving to put into all the zebra finches. He's certainly not a small bird, and the distinction of markings is quite striking. This is one of the white hens. Not a chestnut flint white, a white. She's a last year's bird that quite surprised me really. She was 4th best champion adult at Beverley last year and best white. So that was nice because I don't really keep many whites. I only breed perhaps a dozen to 20 in a year. What a nice bird. I find with the whites that they just need that little bit more, you know, with them having no markings on them. You just don't have enough to really impress a judge that much. And in truth, I haven't really seen an awful lot of whites of quality to merit being best in show. But maybe in the next 5-10 years, strides will be made with them, and they will come up to that sort of standing. I mean, just as an example of that, the next one along is a young white hen. Personally, I think it's a beautiful bird. She was best whites at Crewe. She's been out 3 times this year and won best whites every time. And I feel that the type and the body is getting there with this particular hen. I feel it's only a matter of putting a little bit more roundness around that head earlier, and then we're talking. You know, then we're talking of taking on some of the other colours. But a lovely disposition and stamp. And just below these is again one of my favourite birds, a silver hen. Never won the big prizes, but always there or thereabouts. Bred me some lovely birds this time, a couple of silver cocks and one particular fawn hen. a bird that I'll always look forward to breeding from. A real smasher. This chestnut flank white hen, I haven't shown her this year. I showed her last year at the National and she won a class. But the reason I haven't shown her this time is she is a little bit off-white, a little bit of an eggshell colour, which to some people is a big sin. It isn't to me, but I use her in the breeding cage. I think, fortunately, I've bred some chestnut flank white hens that overpower that hen. But all the same, I appreciate the work she's done for me in producing some of those birds. Let's hope that the youngsters off her go even better. That's the plan anyway. Next door to her is last year's most successful hen. She was best champion breeder at, I don't know, I wouldn't like to say. She was certainly best champion breeder at Beverley, and she was best in show at Scottish and Northern Counties. I think her other wins included the East Anglian Show and somewhere else, but it slipped her around. This year she had best in show up at Scotland, so she still got it as a 12-month-old bird. And below her to the left is what I term a stock hen, a typical stock hen. This one did well for me last year, but not quite well enough, and I think why she didn't do well enough is the fact that she is such a bruiser that it's very difficult to keep the neatness on a bird like that. Just as you see her as she stands, a fault that I can pick out from here now, is she seems to have a bit of a nip in the neck. I can assure you, if we pop it in a show cage in a short while, that neck fills out. But a very big, broad-looking bird. I would think that immediately after the video's been shot, this bird will go straight into the stock pen. She's got a little fault in so much as she carries a little bit of feathering around her eyes. And the tail mark, if you look very closely, I don't know whether you can pick it up off that, but she's just starting to smudge just a touch on her tail mark. But an awesome bird for producing chicks also. Full of depth, full of width, great feather quality. A smasher for breeding quality chick. Nice bird. Next door to her is another highly successful bird. She was actually the best in show winner at Beverley last year. Her type's immaculate, and a feather quality. If I was going to knock a bird like that, I would say she could be a bit bigger. But sometimes, you know, when you improve or you increase the size, you lose some of the other qualities that bird possesses. Everything's in proportion with her, and she's perfect balance. A real sweet bird to look at. Very pleasing to the eye. And under to the left is a silver hen that's produced most of the silvers. She's a 93 hen. She was actually best silvers this time at Crewe. When I showed her as a youngster, the cockbird that was her brother was far better individual than she is, and it was quite sad in a way because they just missed out on winning the best in show award at Scottish and Northern Counties. Something that I've never really seen or heard of a bird of silvers doing in the past, winning a big show like that. I remember speaking to the judge, and he said he'd give it a lot of thought, and he felt that when he was taking up the best breeder,
There was nothing in him, and he was safer with the normals than he was with the silvers. So we left the silvers as second best breeder. But it would have been nice if they could have scooped the big prize. But she's been a tremendous servant. This chestnut flank white hen, again, is a 1993 hen. Funnily enough, it's the only chestnut flank white hen that I've ever had take a best in show award at an area show. She won at the Southwestern in 1993. Of course, now she's getting on in years. I'm not showing her anymore. But another bird that's responsible really for the chestnut flank whites I've got. To her right is a particularly good normal hen. When I say particularly good, in my eyes, or what I know about her, I'm particularly happy with. She's bred some of the better stuff this year. I never showed her last year because of condition problems. And I've discovered this year that she likes to pull tail bars out, so she'll never be a show hen. But a real asset in the breeding pen. I mean, I don't know just how she looks through a camera lens, but certainly in the flesh, she's a cracker. And to the left here, when I mentioned up in the main shed about having a certain number of birds that really thrill me and I wouldn't like to be without, this certainly comes in that category. A really large fawn hen. Large but typey. The main problem is she's just got a little bit of discoloration just behind her eye. She's not got a cheek patch. People tell me maybe, or people would say she has. It's just that the patch is actually lighter than the nape of the neck. But anybody tells you that birds like this should be sent down to the pet shop or given to someone for a mixed aviary, they're certainly having you on, they're pulling your leg. Because a bird like that is very few and far between. I'd settle for a dozen. I don't know about anybody else. This chestnut flank white hen, again, you'll never see the show bench because she's just a little bit dirty on her head. But what about Jet? You know, we speak about Jet. If you can't see the depth in that bird, then there's something wrong. From the top of her head to the bottom of her chest, and that chest isn't square. That's what I mean by Jet. An awesome prospect, certainly for what it'll produce. Next door to her, a normal hen that, again, is one of those birds, she doesn't really inspire me greatly, but was best champion breeder at the Midland last year. A nice bird, but not in the same league as the chestnut flank white we've just looked at. And just below her is another one of these dark silver hens I seem to produce. She was best silvers at Scottish and Northern Counties last year, and although she looks dark, she is very even, and I'm quite happy that on that particular day the judge saw scent and didn't penalise her because of her colour. If she'd been uneven and blotchy, you know, fair dues, but her colour is all one, which is the main criterion that I find in with dilutes. This silver cup, yet another one that will never see the show bench, or certainly not for 12 months. Another of my favourite birds of the year, his tail barring and his breast barring are just that shade too deep in colour. But in any case, I haven't got a hen that matches him for shade, so it's a shame. But what a bird. If he'd have been a normal or a fawn or a chestnut flank white, I'm sure he'd have been well up every week. But apart from this video, he'd have been for my eyes only. He's certainly, I regard him a little bit of a hidden weapon. He's one that I'm sure was going to do some damage. Positive. And next to him, another silver cock. Much better coloured. Not quite as bulky or as deep. But he did a little bit of winning last time. I felt that possibly last year may have deserved the Best in Show award at the National. But the normals beat him. But as a silver, a pretty good attempt, I reckon. And underneath to the left is the white cock that's been breaking eggs this year and last year. He's had best whites countless occasions, including best whites at the club showing crew. It's another one of the whites. I don't keep many whites, so what I do keep, I try and make sure the quality. And as a tight bird, he's spot on. Just similar to a lot of the less popular colours, just a little bit short in size. For a white, he's a big bird, but not really of enough substance to some of the main colours. But a really good line to him, good disposition. And next to him is a chestnut cock that's done very well for me. Certainly last year he did. I've not shown him this time. But he served me bacon, if you like, last time, in so much I've got nice hens and very few chestnut flank white cocks all round. And he just seemed to come into condition and display for me at the right time. So I'm very grateful to that bird for getting me out of a tight spot. He's produced most of the chestnut cocks that you've seen today. And to the left, at the bottom, is another good coloured silver. It's getting very repetitive with saying this about silver cocks, and not so for the hen. He's the cock that was best silver to crew only 4 days ago. This fawn cock has had a bit of a double life. Some people love him, some people hate him. I neither love him nor hate him. But he's done very well as a showbird. He was best in show last year at the Midlands Zebra Finch Club. And he was best in show at the Scottish Zebra Finch Club. So for the people that hate him, I don't really see how you can hate a bird that's got that credential. But I would give a little bit and say that head-wise, head quality-wise, it could be better. But markings-wise, feather quality, it's superb. And next door to him, a normal cock that typifies a type B deep bird. He's never really, done anything marvellous on the show bench. I want to say that, he's perhaps been in the 7 specials on certainly 3 occasions. We've been in the best 7 birds of breeders in the shows last year, so for all he's not striking, he's done very well. To the left below is a fawn cock of this year's fawn cock. He's not yet had an outing, but I'm sure he will. Just waiting for that elusive final 10% of condition to arrive. The same could be said for the normal cock next door. Another young bird. Could be bigger, but couldn't be much tighter. Just below him is another young fawn cock. He was showed at Crewe. Got in the rundown, but I'm expecting bigger things from him when his day comes. He's bouncing with hell. And next to him is a fawn cock that really disappointed me last year. I had big plans for him and nothing seemed to work. Whichever hen I put to him, it just didn't click. So again, it's a case of try again next year. A little bit weak in the head, but shows a great depth of body. This chestnut flank white cock, I mean, he sat there beautifully. I don't think he could look much better if he was a statue. But he's another one that perhaps has disappointed me so far. He's got in the cards and what have you, but I think he's a cracker. Maybe a touch off weight, but everything else he's got, his head, for me, is first class. Be interesting to see how he would do under a judge that's going for type rather than colour. And next to him is another bird that really interests me, in so much as she's split for penguin. That is, her father was a penguin cock, a fawn penguin cock. So she's carrying the penguin gene. Next year I'm hoping that perhaps we'll breed some penguins, fawn penguins, that are that sort of size and that sort of substance and type. I mean, she is only, if I'd bred more fawn cock birds this time, I'm sure she would have got in the show team. She's a really, really attractive, pleasing bird. If I can put that stamp through the penguins, it won't be too long before they're knocking on the door. Just to the left of the bottom, it's quite a buffy fawn hen. She's just enjoying the cuttlefish bone there. But a lovely feathered bird. Similarly, one that's just missed out on the show stages, but it can be a long show season, or maybe next year she'll figure strongly. She certainly likes that grit and the cuttlefish. I think that just about completes the individual birds. We'll go up the top shed and have a look at a few in show cages and how I prefer the birds for the show. Right, so we're now back in the top bird room. You've seen basically all the birds that I've got in Division K. The main thing when showing birds, even though some of those birds may look impressive, whichever Finches were showing pairs of birds. And it's amazing how the shape of the birds, or the shape that we're seeking, in most of the zebras is actually there. It's just a matter of bringing it out. And what I intend to do is show you a little bit how the reaction between cock and hen complements each other, and in effect hides a lot of the show faults anyway. Of course, it'd be ridiculous to think that poor birds can be made into winners. But on more than one occasion I've won with birds that aren't the best birds that I've owned. But because of the fitness and the way they've reacted as a show pair, it's took them out on their own above the field. I well remember when I first started, starting up with a guy called Ian Whiston, who doesn't live too far from me. And when I went to see Ian, a thing that stuck in my mind was that he emphasised that although his birds maybe weren't the tidiest or kept the tidiest in his own bird room, when those birds went on the show bench, they were presented to perfection. And it is when they're presented at the show that matters. This is what I hope to illustrate in the next 5 or 10 minutes. I'll catch a couple and show you what I mean. It's important when you're catching birds that you don't really worry the bird or chase it down the cage. You should always handle your birds with care. I check regularly the wing formation, just to check that all the feathers are in line, without strangling the bird or putting any undue pressure, but just giving the bird a sense of ease. You shouldn't have to chase birds round. In that case, you're frightening the bird in the first instance, but also you might damage its plumage. So we'll just pop this cock in this cage. Now let's have a look at that. So there's no need to be flapping about in a cage. We've got her now, she's not particularly stressed in any way. Just check those wings and tail formation again. Just make sure everything's where it should be. We'll pop her in this cage here. If we look at those birds, you'll see that, certainly in the case of the cock, he's pulling quite tightly. If anything, he looks a bit slim. Just in a second, when we put the birds together, you'll see there's a massive change. There'll be a reaction between the pair of birds. We'll just have a look at those as I say individually. Not really interested at all. Well, let's just watch the change. I always compare it to like a firework display. There should be a reaction in there. As you can see, it's already happening. The hen's actually fanning her tail to be mated. See how that cock now, he doesn't look such a bad bird after all. There you go. See the difference? That is a pair ready to win awards. They're so fit they're actually mating. I always judge my birds for birds of peaked for a particular show. In recent years, that's for the Everything Society show. Unless my birds are behaving like this at that time of year, I wouldn't take them. I'm not confident. See how they puff the plumage out? That natural shape has come into both birds, not just the cock, both birds. They're not unhappy or distressed about anything. As a matter of fact, you can pick them up and look at them, and they're not bothered about me, as long as they're in with that partner. They're happy to be in that show cage. Birds that are wild or flying around in a show cage or just will not perch, I mean it's natural that they do go on the floor from time to time after all the seeds on the floor. But they're actually looking at you. You don't have to work at those to see the quality of the bird. As some people would say, they're in your face. You can't escape those birds. If you want to see any aspect of that pair of birds, it's there for you. Birds that are wild are just, of no importance. A wild bird should never be shown. I actually, some years ago, I had a pair of creams that were best in show at the club show at Scunthorpe. That particular pair, I used to do a trick with them. As those are displaying now as they stand, they used to actually stay on the perches, displaying to each other, facing each other, and I could revolve the cage 360 degrees without the birds leaving the perches, and more importantly, without the birds stopping displaying. It was quite odd. It was a trick I used to show off. I don't think I can manage it with this pair, and I don't think they need to be as steady as that. But certainly it was a sight to see when this pair of birds did that trick.
But those birds are quite happy. And that's the same, you know, the same could be said for all the birds that I show. If there's one thing that certainly no one else will do better than that, and that's presenting the birds. We'll have a look at a number of different colours and see how they react, but I'm sure you'll get the same result. There you are. Well, as you can see, the furs do look quite different as they're in show formation, if you like. With two different sorts of furs there. Obviously the fur we're looking at the moment are a very large fur of normals. This cockbird was the pick of the bunch this year, and I've actually placed him with his sister, which is the hen I would have liked to have shown him with, but it wasn't to be this time. But that cockbird was best in show at Crewe last weekend, and I think he won by a comfortable margin. He certainly, him and the hen he was with were head and shoulders above anything I showed that day. Very impressive on most areas, but I think the size of that pair of birds is very eye-catching, to say the least. If we move above those, you see a completely different style of normal. Again, two nice birds, two matched birds, but not quite the same power, not quite the same frightening presence. These birds have done very well, you know, in the breeder classes and that, but to be honest, there is no comparison in the quality of bird. But I think we get a feel a little bit more for just how birds should look when they're actually being shown. That cock now, he's just looking at a hen and he's done a display and things. And the birds are full of confidence. You know, from being chicks in the nest, they're handled quite frequently here, but they're never frightened. They're always handled from the right angle, if you know what I mean. They're not handled when they're molting or when they're not feeling 100%. These birds know that when I pick them up, they're going in a showcase, they're getting a partner, so they should be happy to be handled. And birds that are always filled with confidence go out of here with confidence. There's nothing worse than having a cracking example of a bird and it won't get off the floor, or it won't sit nice. You know, these birds should respond to any sort of touching and show themselves off to the best of their ability. There we go. You shouldn't have to be chasing birds around to look at them, as I've said with that pair of silvers. So there are two nice pairs of show birds out the selection. The hen was best in show with the cock last week at Crewe. I've put her in with a different cock purely because this bird has took a lot of people's eyes. The type, I would say, is nigh on perfect. That lovely straight line down the back, nice rise to the head, full neck, lovely sweep underneath, and even back towards the vent, he's nicely trimmed off. Opposite to the hen's probably a little bit bumpy under the backside. That was one of my reservations against her for the Crewe show. But certainly that cockbird, the type, is spot on. I wish every bird I've bred had his shape. I know one of my main, I say rival in a friendly sense to the word, a friend of mine, who I regard as having the best knowledge of zebra finches. Well, certainly nobody got a better eye for a bird. He loved this bird. He had its best champion breeder at Exeter. I wish he was judging birds every week. If he can pick out type like that, he should be judging them every week. But I know he likes showing them himself. That cock, as I say, the type, spot on. The hen's a big bird, and she matches that cock really well that I had her with last week.
but I think a cockbird like this one would outshine any hen. Above those, with another slightly different type of normal. That cockbird's very good sort of around the colour state, but not quite really got the head power. Especially when we pan down lower and look at that pearl again, there's a big difference in shape from the cock above. Even though the cock above's a better colour, the shape of the one at the bottom is perfection. I can't get enough of a bird like that. It really is tremendous. Again, two more pairs of breeder normals. The top pair were second in the breeder class. Whereas I said earlier, I was fortunate enough to set the first 6 places. But you know, these birds are fit, as you can see. They're ready for the shows. And this is why I got the filming done now. I've not particularly put them in as balanced pairs, but just to show you that that's what they should look like really when they're being exhibited. They should be accessible to the judge to see, and they should be up for the job. The top pair, not the largest of birds, but certainly got it where it matters. Come on, just move the cock away from the hen so you can perhaps see, and that hen has such quality. Feathers like wax, sheen down its back, down its flank, every feather in place. I think sometimes you underestimate the value of the normals. The last few years we've had a good crop of them, not just me but other people too. And certainly the value of the normal being the original zebra finch, the wild zebra finch, the native one. I don't think really we can take lightly the importance that this colour has on all the other colours. As a young lad, when I first started off, I remember going to Birmingham to a chap that was doing well with fawns. And it amazed me because he never showed any normals, but he had 2 or 3 real outstanding normals. And it's only in latter years I've realised that anybody showing any particular colour of bird, for the fawns, chestnut flank white, pies, silvers, they all have 2 or 3 top quality normals. So there you have it, there's the importance of them. But the lower pair are a pair that, again, I think they were about 3rd in the class, 3rd or 4th. But a lovely pair. I'm just having a display for us. I always find it more appealing if you can get the cock to look at the hen, and vice versa. It's doing the job for you. This particular pair, it's the old girl, the hen that's done ever so well for me. I don't think there's an awful lot left in her, but I think you can get some idea of just why she's won all these awards. She really has got so much quality. A bird like that is few and far between. The cock I put her in with is actually a son. And even though he's a nice colour and he's in really good feather condition, he's not the same quality or not the same item that she has been. She had best in shows at almost everywhere, that hen. Just above them is a pair of a slightly different sort. There's something about the cock behind the head that's not right. But the hen's quite a showy bird and has done well for me. I think she was first in the class up at Scotland at the Scottish ZFX. So she's no slouch. I don't think I showed that particular cock with her, but maybe I will do in the coming weeks. I think we just pan down to the lower cage and we just have a look at that normal hen. I can't get enough of a hen like that, looking at it. It really is a pleasing sight for me. I'll be very sorry when she goes. Very sorry. That bird, you see, she has perfect balance. I talk of balance, I think where a lot of people go wrong is the birds haven't got as much in front of the perch as they have behind. So I like my birds to not lie flat, but to lie more across the perch, not like a border canary where they're stood up at this angle. I like my birds to look low down, so it gives the impression of depth before it even starts. I remember one fella saying to me once that somebody's birds, one of my competitors, why I was beating his birds was his birds looked like dogs that were sitting up and begging, almost on their back legs. This is something I really do try and avoid. I won't put a bird near mine that has all its body in front of the legs or in front of the perch, almost as though if you touched it, it would topple over. I like them to be perfectly balanced, so the feet are in the middle of the body, right in the middle. If they're going to take an award, or if they're going to pull them out of the field, you get a judge look at those and he says, you know, these birds are up for it. These birds have got to be looked at. I always say, you know, before I send birds out, if I'm lucky enough to win at that particular show, I always look at the birds and I think, well, this bird are actually saying to me, look, we're the best here, we're the best bird in here, we're the fittest. And if you can get that, you're halfway there, the job's half done. Too many times when I've judged birds myself, I see some outstanding birds, but for want of a better phrase, they're in a mess. They're not happy, the feather quality's gone, they look dull or listless. You've got to have birds that are looking comfortable. These birds aren't particularly the best show birds in the world. The cocks are very buffy, you know, very buffy in feather. But he's one that I've really got my eye on for the breeding pen. Just below, the pair that's below, which you, again, fitting to perfection. Quite interesting to see that cock bird because he's one of the very late ones. He's only a baby, bred in May. So he looks quite promising for the later shows or shows next year. That hen at the bottom, what we're looking at now, she just lost a tail bar, so that rendered her out the game. But another couple of weeks she should be in. I'm looking possibly Scottish and Northern time for that one. The pair we're presently looking at, I feel are the best balanced pair that I've got that I've been showing this year. Two last year's birds, but I think they complement each other. I think they're almost a mirror image of each other. Of course the cock's got markings on him, but they don't half display well. They were best in show at the Southwestern this year, and the cock won as a breeder at a number of places. He was best in show at the Scottish and Northern counties, and best champion breeder at the ZFS Club Show at Beverley. To the right, that's the cock bird I mentioned before that's won 2 club shows, and the hen with him is no slouch. She's done a fair bit of winning in her time as well. But across the two pairs, I think you can see a slight difference in that, you know, the pair we're looking at now are a little bit rounder, a little bit shorter to the other pair, but 2 nice pairs of birds. And I think you can see with that cockbird now, you know, he's a born showman. He never stops singing, and he's like that for 3 or 4 hours. You know, it's very important when a bird's won its class that it doesn't dry up and suddenly pack up for the day. He will display like that for 3 or 4 hours. I mean, the pair to the left, they're not far behind them, but a little bit longer in build, a little bit slimmer in build. I mean, I know one chap commented only this year at Scotland when the cockbird was best in short Scotland. He said that he didn't feel the cock had enough head. Well, I don't know what he's expecting out of a head, if that's not got enough. What we're now looking at are the national winners from last year. You can see it hasn't dulled their breeding performance. Like the last pair we looked at, you know, not necessarily the longest of birds, but boy are they fit. He's almost breeding them now. You wouldn't think they'd had a hard breeding season, only 8-12 weeks ago. That's keenness. The birds to the left had a well-balanced coloured pair. Maybe not as short as the last pair, but in a similar state of condition. As you can see, the cock's buzzing. All my cocks buzz. If they don't buzz like that, I know mentally they're not ready. And if they're not mentally ready, well, it's unlikely that they're going to be physically. This particular pair I've done phenomenally well. Again, he's knocking on the cockbird, but he's won nearly all the early shows. He just missed out on the ZFX, but fortunately I had the first to beat him. The hen, she was best in short Scotland this year, and she was best breeded at almost all the earlier shows last year. Best in short Scottish and Northern. Well, the cockbird I used to show with the old hen that we saw a little bit earlier, but fortunately they're not together. If we just move to our right, we have another pair of birds which haven't really done an awful lot show-wise. The cock's only been out twice, I think. Could do with a little bit more rise to the head, but the hen's a beauty. I mean, the hen's a real class act. One feature I like about that hen, she got tremendous back skull. You look at the distance of her eye to the back of her head, it seems to go on forever. It seems almost like half an inch before you reach the back of its head or the back of its skull. That's another phrase you might hear, back skull. Certainly the pair on the left are really at it. There's no stopping them. The cock we're looking at now, he's the one I termed the bruiser. I think you can see why. Very difficult to match up with a hen, but a very powerful bird. I mean, some of the best birds pose the biggest problems as to matching them up. For a big bird, he's certainly not sluggish. That's one thing I have against the big birds. In recent years, have come under quite a little bit of criticism, from people. I tend to feel that some of the criticism has been unjust, in so much as the people criticising them are the ones who don't have them. The case of the have-nots calling the have. I can see some sense or some of the reasoning, but sometimes it's unfounded. I mean, if you've got a bird that will perform and will display, and whose feather quality is good, I don't understand people knocking quality birds. He'll go all day, that cockbird will. The hen's not a bad hen either. If we just pan over and now look to the right, that's a cock that's plenty depth. He really got in the battleship build. Just a little bit of a nip in the neck. That's his failing. Just a touch in the neck. I think the hen must be feeding down there somewhere, but she might bobble. But I think if you were judging the two side by side, there's no comparison in the cocks, even though one is far bigger than the other. I don't think it's just the size. one is a classier individual. Simple as that. So we're looking at now for the best forms at Crewe. Cockbird, best in show Scotland last year. I think you can see that the hen is a better type than the cock, no question about that. I have struggled with the fawns in this last couple of years in so much that I've had some really nice hens, but not the cocks to match them. It's been a shame, but having said that, I'd rather have the hens than not have the hens. I mean, up until perhaps 1992, 93, I had row upon row of fawn cocks, you know, all capable of taking best in show. At the moment, I'm struggling with half a dozen, you know. But I say struggling, it's better with half a dozen than none at all. I'm not struggling that bad. But that hen, again, has raised a lot of complimentary comments and has won really under every judge she's been under. The pair to the right are a pair again that I was showing last year. The hen flatters to deceive a little bit, I think. I think sometimes she looks a better bird than she actually is. But she does possess really good type. And she's got a lovely round head, which I think, as we spoke before, the head sets a bird off. Two promising pairs of birds. If I could produce them or replicate them in great numbers, I'd be very happy. This pair's a young cockbird and an adult hen. The hen comes from a cock that I actually brought in. It was bred down off my line, but I paid quite a bit of money for the father, and in all truth, that's the only hen that it's produced that's worthy of his sort of standards. But she did very well for me last year. I've not shown her this year because I'm looking at that bird more for stock. The cockbird's coming out of a similar family tree, and I think you can see with the shape of the birds they're quite compatible. A nice pair of birds, but not really the showiest pair of birds you're going to come across. The hen's got a tremendous skull on her, really broad between the eyes. I don't know when she's looking at us like that whether you can see the width between the eyes, but that's a feature on her that really attracts me. The pair to the right, again another pair of birds. That hen's another one of my double club. It's won the Scottish Deborah Finch Show twice, 2 years consecutively. She's getting on now, she's a 93 hen. If we can see her, if the cock will move, she's got really quality feather. I think that's what sets her above the rest. Her feather quality is as though she's been cut out of marble. You know, no roughness or knottiness. A really nice bird. There you go. Always works. These are a pair of breeders. Cock's a little bit fine in head. But the hen's got lovely feather quality, especially for the breeding pen. You know, she's nice and buffy without being overpowered on it. So, cock's that, when I was saying about being upright, you know, he's a bit, the stance is wrong on the cock as compared to the hen. The hen's nice and balanced. He's all top heavy. Too much at an angle of a border canary. But it looks fit enough anyway. The pair what we're now looking at, that's if they'll stop trying to mate, I was really delighted with, because I think that pair are approaching the fawns that I had 2 or 3 years ago. The hen's a storming hen in every respect. She could have a touch more on the tail mark, but I think you're clutching at straws really to criticise a bird that's actually got a tail mark like that. Lovely colour. The cock's a showman. He likes being in the showcase. He likes being with a hen, as you can see. These have won in the first 3 shows. They were second best breeder at the ZFS. So they've done me proud so far. I know it's asking a lot, but if I can improve on them just a fraction next time, I think we'll see the fawns back to the position where I believe they belong, and that's at the top. I'm a firm believer that you can throw all the other colours, you know. Normals have done very well and have been justified in winning what they've won. But a top class pair of fawns takes some beating. And if you can get them, for some reason, there's something to do with the feather quality on fawns that helps them give this impression of size without looking coarse or without looking rough. They always seem to look nice, as you can see. Lovely feather. The texture of that feather is just like silk. Above that pair are a pair of adult normals. More stock birds than show birds. They have had an outing on the show bench. But a pair more for breeding birds like the pair beneath them. Again, plenty depth and substance to them. Cock could do a little bit more on his head. But a nice pair all the same. This pair of fawns they won the class up at the Scottish ZFS and won the class at Exeter at the South Western ZFS. A breed of pair of birds. I think in Scotland they were third best breeder. At Exeter they were second best breeder. Again, a pair of fawns I'm more accustomed to seeing in this shape. A big, typey, good coloured quality pair of birds. That's what, if I have been known for zebras, that's what I'd like to be known for. A pair of birds that's like them. The pair that's above them currently mating on the floor. If we can get them from mating, yes. He's a very rich coloured cockbird, and that complements him. Well, the cock's perhaps not the quality of the hen show-wise, but certainly for breeding purposes, should do very well. Well, good match pair, balanced in colour, well matched. This pair of chestnut flank whites were best champion breeder at the Scottish ZFS 2 or 3 weeks ago. Again, I mean, a pair that I'm really delighted with. For chestnuts, I think the size of them is chartering ground that's not been covered before. I did actually split the pair up, and the hen was first in the breeder class at Crewe. But the type and size of those birds, I feel, compares quite well to the other colours. Smashing pair of birds who react well. I did feel it towards the end of the breeding season that I've made more progress with this particular mutation than any of the others. From last year I was really struggling for cockbirds, and I had 1 or 2 nice hens. It really snowballed this time where I feel I've got 10 or a dozen chestnut hens as good as any other hens I've got, and cocks I've half a dozen that are better than any chestnut cocks I had last year, so not a bad year all round with those. But he's certainly quite an impressive bird. You don't normally see that sort of substance and size across chestnuts. The pair above, the hen's a really nice bird. The cock's one that we saw in a cage on his own, and unfortunately he's never come into, you know, suitable feather to show. Even now, you know, his flanks are completely shot at. But I thought I'd pop him in a cage because I'm sure this bird offers more than a lot of the birds that have been winning for me. He's a lovely rise to his head, and you can see the depth of those markings. Something unusual in chestnut flank white terns. The hen that he's with is actually his mother, and I think you can see when she gets up there, you can see the shape and where that type has come from. There you go. I think you can see. Did make a nice purr if you were to show them together. Maybe just pan down and look at that show purr again. I think you can see that's why they've won the prizes. Shown at all. I've not felt really been ready in feather. Maybe they don't even match each other. But I'm quite impressed with the head qualities of the cock. And the end's a big bird with a cracking body to her, so perhaps they make a better breeding purr than a show purr. There's something about the cock that I'm really happy with. And his colour's pretty good. It could be a shade whiter, but colour-wise, he's not far off. In the top cage, that's the hen that, again, is another one of my bruisers. She's the late bird we described earlier. I can't wait to see what she's going to look like in 12 months' time. She really is a special bird. The cock shows nice colour and she's a showy type of bird. But that hen is one of the pick of the bunch. Or pick of the year, if you like. From these two pairs of chestnut flank whites, what we're going to see is a contrast. Something that only a chestnut flank white specialist understands. This pair we're now looking at a very white ground, white based pair. You know, the buttercock and the background is snow white. Unfortunately, the markings in the cock could be a touch stronger. It's not far away. But when we see the pair above, when we look at them in a minute, you'll see there's a big difference. I would say with that pair, perhaps the hen is marginally bigger than the cock, but again, an awesome sight. The pair at the top, very deep in markings, but a little bit off-white, a little bit grey white. But some judges don't like it at all. Some judges seem to ignore that because of the real depth of the markings on the cock and that lovely tail mark on the hen. So sometimes it depends on the judge. You could show either pair 2 weeks running and then be the other way around. One in first, one in second 1 week, and completely opposite the next. But I think an example like that does show you the difference in what people are actually looking for when it comes to chestnut flank white. As I said before, these birds aren't wild. They're brimming with confidence. And that confidence has been instilled as young birds. Again with this bird, similar chestnut flank white, a very dark marked cock, but a little bit off-white in colour. Hen's a beauty, especially around the face area. I know one or two people who'd be really excited about that hen. She's not been out yet. I've never really showed her because I'm still a little bit short for chestnut cocks rather. But above them, we've got another pair of lighter birds, but bigger birds. And what a pair of birds they are. And again, pretty fit. But lovely and white. Certainly the hen's snow white. The chestnut flank whites, anybody going into chestnut flank whites, that's or soon will understand that there are two real different forms. I've heard people say that there's 4 different kinds of chestnut flank whites, but I know there's definitely 2. The ones with the colour that don't perhaps have the substance, and the ones that are very white and typey, but don't have the colour. I think if you flick from one to the other and we move to the bottom pair, you can see exactly what I'm saying. This pair of silvers that we're currently looking at, I've done a bit of winning for me so far. I mean, the cock there's no doubt the cock is tremendous, he's a beauty. We saw him in his stock cage before. Unfortunately, the hen's just not in the same ball game. Not even the same species of bird, but rather irritatingly, the judges seem to want this colour, you know, across the pair, and that's the only hen that I've got that's got a similar colour. But it seems such a shame to show a waste of a hen like that with a smashing cock bird. But a nice light pair, that's what takes the eye. I mean, no comparison I feel to the pair above them. They really are a Harrison pair of birds. You know, be whatever colour they've turned out, they are the type of birds I like to put my name to. Very dark pair of silvers, but I know which I'd rather take home or breed from. To the point of them being dark is really, if he was judging them against creams, which had allowed anything from light to dark, from the cream off the top of the milk to a light brown. With these, the judges seem to go one way or the other. There are very few that approach it in a sensible manner and go for an even dilution as we do with the creams. It seems odd in a way that some of the creams, some of the silvers that I'm showing you, 2 or 3 years ago, I seem to have an abundance of creams, and it seems rather sad that I haven't really got a pair of creams ready for showing this year. Sad because I think in the last 10 years of showing at the ZFS Club Show, I've had best creams on every occasion, bar in 1988 when I didn't show, or 1987 it was, I never showed. And every other occasion I've took the best creams award. So it's a little bit disappointing that I couldn't even compete this year in the cream classes. Just shows you how things can change around in 5 or 10 years. Thankfully, the silvers they will take over their mantle. And I'm hoping to get some creams back out of these silvers, because after all, they are both dilute. This pair of silvers were best silvers at crew. Pair of adult birds. A nice match pair for silvers. I'd prefer the cock bird with a different hen, but unfortunately the judges don't seem to go for him when he's with a different hen. They like that hen with him, so you have to please the judges. But a lovely balanced pair all the same. I don't think you're going to see much better in the silver line than those. The pair that's directly above them are a larger pair, but if anything have a slightly fawny cast coming through, certainly on the hen more than the cock bird. But that hen is, again, one of the better birds that I've produced in the time I've had the zebras, and certainly of any colour. And the cock bird, he's no dwarf. So I'm quite optimistic that I can build out of these silvers and really get some pairs that are a credit. That silver hen has produced a lovely fawn hen for me. I mean, she really is a dream of a hen, her daughter. This pair of silvers, again a dark pair, the adult pair that won a couple of Best of Colour awards last year. They really react well together. I think that's always a sign that you're on your way to getting them some part to winning awards. They're really happy together, they complement one another. And the colour, for me, is nigh on perfect. In matching, that is. But I do appreciate maybe they're a little bit dark for some people's taste. The cock bird above in the cage, he's one of, I think we did see him a little earlier, but he's one of my choice birds. He's a bird I would hate to be without. But unfortunately, there isn't a hen anything like him in colour and maybe even quality, but certainly not in colour. Can't get anything to match him. I'm certain that odd people would say he was a silver lightback, but you know, I've never had any like backs near my stuff, so unless he's come out with something someone else has had, he's a silver cock as far as I'm concerned. It's interesting to see what he actually throws when he's purred up. I might try and silver to silver and see if I can get an evenness of colour there with the youngsters. I say an evenness of colour, I mean across the set of shit, not across his self. He's quite even as he stands. I'm going far wrong. I don't think it'll be too long before they're really pumping at the door. Let's hope so. These are the whites that have won each time they've been out this year. It's a young hen and a last year's cock. The cock's the father of the hen. Probably the best pair of whites I've ever bred. But having said that, I do breed an awful lot of whites. I've only been showing the one pair. I actually showed two pairs at Crewe when they were first and second in the class, so they did very well. But this pair I think are outstanding in so much as they match one another very well. They're lovely and white, which is essential with a pair of white. And generally show very well when they go out. They have took best whites on 3 occasions this year, but never quite got in the specials, so that perhaps says something about the quality of the other birds that they're actually competing against. The pair above them, the cockbird's just having a bit of a rest. Well, the hen's a very nice hen. She's an auntie to that young hen. But the cock's not doing himself justice at all. But they were actually second in the adult class. And they were big classes of white, so they're not too bad. I think if we look at the pair below, you can see just why they've been doing the winning. Because they always look good. They're always in your face. They're always pointing out we're the best here. As you can see. Well, last but by no means least, we move on to penguins. This pair are a pair of normal penguins. They're both adult birds. I don't breed too many penguins in 1 year, and this pair seems to have been winning endlessly. They never seem to stop. That cockbird, I think he bred in 1992 or something like that, so he's gone on a long time. I do have other young normals that I've beaten him, but he looks particularly well at the moment. So much so that he was best penguins again at Crewe for the umpteenth time. Penguins really weren't one of my favourite colours. I only branched into penguins to prove a point. I got into a little bit of a discussion, let's say, a few years ago, 5-6 years ago, with some of the penguin specialists who were at that time trying to get some form of handicap system for the bird. And I stated my side of the facts that I thought that the penguins were being badly managed. I decided to get hold of a few, and the year after I've been winning the best penguin awards everywhere ever since. But they're not really a favourite of mine, but I do like when you see a nice pair with a little bit of substance and a little bit of type and as much size as a pair of penguins is going to give you, I think they are very pleasing. But some of the birds that we've had to put up with in the last decade really have, for want of a better word, have been a disgrace. And I only hope that some of these pairs maybe can inspire people to go on and do things with penguins. I would love to see these take off in preference to perhaps, the black-faced or orange-headed or whatever these new ones that's coming in. There'd be nothing more pleasing for me than to see half a dozen pairs of penguins like this particular pair. Above them we have a pair of fawn penguins. The cockbird is an excellent quality bird, very good type, clean-chested, lovely bird. Again, it's done a bit of winning as a penguin. Numerous times last year he was best penguin. just a shame that the hen I showed him last year is no longer with us. And this hen, I think she's an adult hen. She's not quite up to his standards, but nevertheless, still streets ahead of the rest of the opposition. But that just about wraps up the colour side. I think what I have, the only omissions really have been cranes, which I have got some birds, but unfortunately they're not ready for showing. And I don't keep pies. I have no pies. It's too much of a lottery really for me to be looking at getting birds that have got splashes of colour identical on a match per of bird. I'm more geared towards type than colour. And there's no lightbacks on there. I've never really branched into lightbacks for one reason or another. I've nothing against them, and I certainly wouldn't say that I'll never have any, but I've not had any yet. Well, we've come to the end of the filming. I think myself and Doug, we've been at it 8 hours now. The light's starting to fade. I hope that you found the video interesting. Certainly we've enjoyed doing it. It's been tiring, but you know, I think we've got there in the end. I'm glad to be at the end. But I think if nothing else, you'll maybe see that the quality of the birds is in depth, and any success that my stud of birds has achieved is down to the quality and depth rather than individual outstanding birds. It's easy to see them on the show bench with the rosettes around them, one particular pair. My success has been down to a set of birds, which have took 20 years to build to this level. I have had birds in the past as good as these, but maybe not a full set or a complement of birds like these. Hopefully we'll go from strength to strength, and in 4 or 5 years' time we might come back and film some better ones. But I think when you've looked at the birds, we've seen some of the birds in show cages, you'll understand perhaps why these particular stud of birds have achieved what they have done. 42 Best in Show awards at specialist shows in the last 10 years. When you consider that some of the shows I've only ever done once, it's quite an alarming success rate. They've won at every area society that there is, including 7 Best in Show awards at the biggest show, there's Everything Society, all in the last 10 years. So I think that the results speak for themselves, but I hope more so the birds speak for those results. Odd times, occasionally people have said to me, how do you do it? It's certainly not me that does it, it's the birds you've been looking at. The quality of those birds is the reason behind the success, pure and simple. We've seen today the approach to the show side of exhibitions Everything. For anyone that watches this film and has never gone into thinking about showing the birds but keeps Everything, maybe this will encourage them a little bit to have a go at it. It's certainly very rewarding, and there are different aspects to it than just keeping and breeding zebras. That just about wraps it up for me. I'd like to thank Doug for coming down and offering to do this film. Without him there would have been no film. And I hope that maybe I'll see you at a show somewhere, or if anybody ever wants to visit here, they're more than welcome. It's always better seeing birds live in the flesh than on a film or on a photograph. For anybody that wanted to come, the phone number's always handy in a ZFS book, or maybe it'll be at the end of this video. So thanks very much, and enjoy breeding and showing everything. Cheers.